If you've ever lived in a home away from home, you would know how daunting it can be to have to fit into a completely new society. I've lived in Cambodia my entire life, 16, almost 17 years. Ethnically, I'm Chinese, but I'm also a Canadian citizen who was born in Vietnam. So when people ask me where I'm from, it's a pretty long story. Growing up, I wrestled with my cultural identity and struggled to find a balance between the cultures into which I was born. At home, I spoke Cantonese with my mom and Mandarin with my dad. At school, I learned both English and French. I celebrated multiple different New Years. And so, as a result, I often sidelined the culture that I was raised around. It was difficult for me to learn about traditions and languages that I just didn't innately connect with. I didn't feel the need to embrace Khmer culture because in my mind, I was different enough with a whole bunch of other identities waiting for me. But the older I've become, the more I realize that all of my closest friends are Khmer. All of my favorite foods are Khmer dishes. The Khmer language is around me all the time. It was impossible to separate myself from Khmer culture. I wanted to be in on all the inside jokes. I wanted to shoot water guns during Songkran. There was a whole world that I wanted to be a part of. The more I distanced myself from Khmer culture, the more I desired to connect with it. And so this is why, a year and a half ago, I decided to connect my heart and mind to Cambodia, to express gratitude for the country that raised me. But I didn't want to just find my place. I wanted to earn it, especially after having rejected it for so long. I started a student-led initiative alongside two of my best friends, Jurika and Yerka. Twice a month, we would set up a bracelet stand at various events, like farmers markets or fun runs, where we would offer a bracelet making service. 100% of all of the money we would raise went towards supporting schools or children's hospitals. Through this initiative, I was able to find my place in Cambodian society while also giving back to my community. And what if I told you that fitting into a new society can be as simple as making a bracelet? Just like stringing beads together, you can weave new roots into a community. The trick for both is to make an impact, a difference. What makes a bracelet special to wear? What makes you valuable to a community? The first, most important yet difficult part of this process is finding where to start. What is the first step when it comes to making a bracelet? Well, first, you have to cut a piece of string. This is the first commitment to your craft. What will you create? A complex design requires a longer piece of string, whereas a simpler one only requires wrist length. This mirrors your journey into integrating into a new society. What commitment are you willing to make? It can be big, like organizing a marathon, or it can be small, like making the effort to get to know the lady that sells you coffee in the morning. What matters is the intention of making a positive impact on your community. This brings us to the second step of making a bracelet, making a unique design that fits the person who will wear it. When you're making a bracelet for someone else, you keep in mind their favorite colors and their preferences. The same thing applies to how you might contribute to a new community. Get to know what is missing. Maybe there is a shortage of English teachers at a primary school, where you might volunteer a few hours a week. Or maybe there is a need for more trainers at your local gym, where you might lend a helping hand. But what makes your contributions even more meaningful is your personal and cultural touches. As a bracelet maker, I draw inspiration all the time from my past creations in order to make ones that are equally as unique. Similarly, you can enrich your community by sharing aspects of your culture and past experiences. For instance, once when I was thinking of ideas for a new bracelet, I reflected on the elements that I had seen growing up in Chinese traditional bracelets. They often contained large round beads that came in a plethora of different colors, each symbolizing a different form of luck. And so by incorporating this cultural aspect into our bracelets, our jewelry wasn't just curating a special piece for unique individuals. It was also about weaving an element of fortune and good wishes into their bracelet. See, a community thrives on color, just like a bracelet, so don't be afraid to add your own unique touches. Think about your own background. What stories do you carry? What traditions can you share? Each one of us has a unique narrative that adds to the tapestries of our communities, and our past lessons and knowledge can help shape the roles that we can play in a new society. It can be easy to feel like you have to blend in order to belong, but real community happens when everyone feels seen and heard. When you share aspects of your own cultures with others, you invite them to understand and appreciate a completely different world. And in return, they share theirs with you. That's where real connection grows. Being different is not a weakness. In fact, it's a big, big strength that only enhances the significance of our contributions to our community. What makes handcrafted bracelets so valuable is the fact that they aren't perfect, because they are handmade, they are human crafted. Perfection is also not the key when it comes to integrating into a new community. Making mistakes is part of the journey. For example, I can't count the amount of times that I've butchered the pronunciation of Khmer words, or the amount of giggles and stares I've received because people have no idea what I'm trying to say. But that's completely okay, because by being vulnerable, I give myself the opportunity to learn new Khmer words and the right pronunciations. Last year, I couldn't tell a customer what colored beads we have. This year, I am able to completely design a bracelet with a customer in Khmer without the help of my friends. And that is the difference between staying on the sidelines of something and being a real part of it. In the end, it's the effort that counts to connect our hearts and minds. And this brings us to the last step of making a bracelet: tying strong knots that will secure your bracelet together. It's important that these knots are tight enough so that your bracelet doesn't fall apart. The same goes for your commitment. It's not just about what you bring or what you give to a project. It's about staying that truly keeps your initiative going. I'll tell you a story. In early April, my friends and I visited a children's hospital here in Phnom Penh. The doctors there agreed to let us make a few dozen bracelets for some of the young patients. And on that day, I was very nervous. I was uncomfortable in my shoes and my clothes. And to be honest, my Khmer was too mediocre to understand what the doctors were saying. I felt like an imposter. I asked my friends, hey, maybe I should go home. This is probably not cut out for me. But then, in the corner of the room were two sisters sitting on a mat. I remember this very clearly, because when I knelt down to offer them bracelets, I watched as their eyes light up with joy as we tied those bracelets around their wrists. And that was when I realized that what I was doing was worth it. Their smiles were worth it. Because just the fact that I had made at least one member of my community's day brighter was reason enough for me to keep going with my initiative, to continue that hospital visit. Your contributions mean so much more when you keep showing up. And so, why not tie your contributions to your lifestyle? Be a regular at your local cafe. Be a familiar face at the dog park. Always say hi to your cashier. Sow your roots with effort, and soon, in time, you'll realize that you've become someone else's. The size of your impact is not what makes the difference. It's the dedication and passion that you bring that truly gives back to your community, that makes your effort worthwhile. And so, to go back to my own initiative with my friends, with our little bracelet stand, we managed to raise over $2,000 in the past year and a half towards supporting schools and children's hospitals. In this past year and a half, my Khmer has improved exponentially. I learned a new trade, but most importantly, my world got so much bigger because I decided to get to know my community. And thanks to our connections now, we have now joined forces with a larger student-led project organizing fun runs in Phnom Penh with over 1,000 participants, continuing to make positive impacts one bracelet at a time. With every bracelet that I have ever made, I got to know a new person. I got to know their name. I got to know their favorite colors and their smile. With every bracelet, I've gotten to know a soul and a new story. With every bracelet, I've been given the opportunity to give back to my community that accepted me, that raised me, and most importantly, that I can proudly and finally say I belong to. It took me 15 years to find my place in my society, but it only takes 5 minutes to make a bracelet. So imagine what you can do in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, and even 5 years. What can you do to change your community and your world? There is always someone out there looking for a bracelet, an initiative that only you can make. And so here's my challenge to you. In the next week, do one thing that makes you feel more connected to your community, whether that be saying hi to a new face, or volunteering for something, or even just stopping to ask a stranger, hey, how do you say the color green in your native language? You might be surprised to see how many bracelets you can make without ever having to pick up a string. Thank you.